Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yeah, Karina.
Yeah, perfect.
It's not perfect. Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so welcome everybody. Thank you for attending this morning, our webinar, Unlocking Community Participation, Creating the Conditions for Communities to Thrive. It's great to see so many faces here this morning, and we're really excited to be sharing this work with you. So first off, my name is Amber Everson. I'm the Funding Development Coordinator for Achieve, Thrive, Flourish. So we're a local charity based in South Essex, and I also help support with the community participation work. I thought we'd give a little bit of an overview as to what Your Essex Community is. If you do the next slide, Katrina. Thank you. So if you put back one.
Sorry, it's got ahead of
itself. All right. Technology. So Your Essex Community is a unified offer under a shared identity that brings together expert partners across 3 key areas of support. So there's a digital e-portal for essential guidance and training. There's tools to engage the community, inspire participation, which is what we're leading on today. And then there's place-based plans to reflect local need. So together, these 3 services create a cohesive, connected and accessible support system for local community and VCS organisations. So the Active Wellbeing Society are leading on this along with us, ATF at Achieve, Thrive, Flourish, on community participation. And I know that for both organisations, we have been heavily focused on volunteering and asset-based community development for quite a few years now, and we've seen how it can really strengthen an organisation and lead to community change. So what is the vision of community participation? So it's to create a culture that values active and engaged communities, collaborating with partners and individuals to build a positive environment and achieve shared goals. We aim to empower the community groups by encouraging and inspiring participation, demonstrating the strength and resilience that comes from a collective effort. Thank you, Karina. So there are 3 main ways that we're doing this. So it's by learning together, having practical tools, and showcasing events. So first off, we have our community of practice, which hopefully lots of you have heard about, and that's why you're here today. So you can sign up and join our community of practice. And this is a way to group people together, to share ideas, experiences, get up-to-date information as to what events we have going on, to stay connected to everybody. And then we have developed a case study toolkit. So this gives you real life examples of how community members have become involved in volunteering and how it's changed their life. So you can read firsthand the impact that it's having. And we're really keen to develop this further. So if you guys as an organisation have any key case studies and individuals that would like to share their stories, we'd really welcome hearing those. It's been great to get a picture across Essex as to all the good work that's happening so far. And then in terms of showcase events, we have Discovery Days, which ATF have been delivering for quite a few years now. So this is the perfect way to get the community in a room together. So you will have counsellors and schools, teachers, parents, community organisations, all under one roof. You will find out what the local need is in the area, what people are really asking for, but most importantly, it's trying to create that change with everybody within the room. So it's always turning it back on the community that are there. Say they're asking for a yoga class to be set up. It's, well, do you know a yoga instructor? Have you got any local assets available? Do you know a place for hire or a reduced cost? Can you help advertise this activity? So it's always turning everything back on the community that's there and framing it in a strength-based way to make sure that we can really get the most out of who's in that room. And so we delivered one in Leindon fairly recently, which had a great response. We had over 40 people there for that one. So yeah, it's just a really good way to bring people together to discover what is needed for that community and start that change. And then we've recently started delivering sharing days. We've delivered one at Briscoe's Primary School in Basildon and another one at the Harwich Arts Centre. Again, this is another way to bring local organisations together to hear firsthand about community participation and change. So the one that we hosted within the school we heard from 5 or 6 different community members about their journey through volunteering and what their life looks like now. So it's a brilliant way to see it in action, really. And then the online versions, like this is our first webinar we've got today, and hopefully we'll have a few more to come in the future. So just another way to be sharing some more information and keep us all together as a collective to learn more. So this rounded approach will hopefully give everybody the tools and information and support that they need to increase community participation in your area. So that's why we're here today. And I'm going to hand over to Stuart Long. He's the CEO of ATF, and he's got Vicky and Kelly here today who work for ATF, and we're going to bring to life how it's worked in 2 key areas of Essex for us. Thanks, Stu.
Thank you, Amber. And good morning, everyone. Great to be here. I thought for the webinar today, as Amber alluded to, it'd be really great to meet some of the people that have been involved in bringing community participation to life. So we're going to be looking at 2 specific areas, one being Pitsea and the other one Great Wakering, because they're kind of quite different in terms of their area profile. I believe that Pitsea is an underserved community, whereas Great Wakering's more rural and socially isolated. So they're very different in terms of the issues that we were trying to tackle, but it's kind of a way of showcasing and highlighting how asset-based community development really and community participation really can help build a sense of community and empower local residents. Next slide, please. I just briefly wanted to talk to you about where we came from, ATF, and how we kind of have grown over the last 10 years. My background is in local authority. I used to be a housing officer for 25 years at Southend Council for my sins, and we were struggling with antisocial behaviour on an estate in Southend. And it kind of started off with a passion of mine, which is football, because we were trying to engage and talk with young people, and we weren't getting very good responses in terms of engagement. So we thought maybe by running some sports programs down on the estate in Nest, we might be able to engage better with young people. So I took my coaching badges, and we kind of landed on the estate to try and to better understand the issues that the young people were facing and potentially have better engagement. We found that the approach that we were taking we were probably quite naive in it, but as it happened, it was very strength-based, and it was all really from an early stage just about the young people themselves. In that, I mean that we were trying to provide opportunities for volunteering, for training, to try and get them to be alongside, to co-design the sessions, and finding that young person. That was the key and the hook to bringing 20 of their friends along to the sessions and to make them well attended. So we kind of did that by kind of giving them vouchers, supporting them to kind of learn more and to really take a lead in running the sessions themselves. And the result of that was that very quickly the sessions became well attended and were really popular. One of the eye-opening things in the early days for myself was that we think of football as being a national game, but it quickly became apparent that unless you had like £150 subs to pay to play in a team, and also parents that had the kind of ability to be able to kind of ferry you around the borough at the weekend, there was a whole range of talented kids that were just kind of isolated because of those conditions. And it was kind of thing, okay, so they're never going to be able to play structured football, participate in that opportunity. So we kind of wanted to try and remove that barrier. So we kind of set up a network of volunteers that would help to support young people to get to games, and also scholarships that would remove the financial barrier. It was really successful, and then we quickly started thinking about, well, what other kind of opportunities are there that there might be financial barriers to. And you think about the dance shows with tickets for parents, costumes, the weekly sessions. So we did some arts and drama, horse riding, heritage culture, multi-sport. So we kind of really grew and went far beyond football, and it became apparent that the kind of we needed a vehicle more than just a football club to kind of drive these programs. So in 2019, achievement through football became Achieve, Thrive, Flourish. So we still kept the ATF, just the name change. So we didn't have to change all the T-shirts. So that was good. Next slide, please. So yeah, the principle of what we were doing was basically this, that we're always focusing on what's strong in an area and not on what is wrong. So that could be an asset in terms of a partner, an asset in terms of a person, or a physical space. Go where the energy is, go where there's appetite to change, understand what's working well there, and then build on that. And that's the kind of principles of asset-based community development, and provides opportunities for strong community participation. Next slide, please. So we were very successful in Southend, and then we were asked to kind of through the local delivery pilot through Sport England, we were asked to see if we could replicate in other areas, and we kind of thought it was important to try and better pin down the conditions that we were creating for our communities to thrive. And so we developed the practice of change to kind of really be a blueprint to kind of develop and expand the work that we were doing. And so there were some fundamental principles that we took into each of our projects, which was basically looking, number one, for neighbourhood connectors. So that's kind of people that are there, they're part of the community. We're not parachuting in, we're looking to work alongside them. And also, as we say, when we're focusing on what's strong and not what's wrong, tapping into ready-made communities. So, for example, when we landed in Pitsea, we worked alongside Briscoe's primary school. But since then, other examples have been the GP surgery, working out of like fitness centre, leisure centre, wherever there's energy for community participation. It really helps you to kind of land with that partner. So it's about understanding the local area and then getting to know local people, find the neighbourhood connectors, find the people that are, they don't find it intimidating to find 20, 30 people. That's part of their personality, and they enjoy engaging with community members. If you have those key people as part of your team, you can't go wrong. And it's kind of not just in terms of community participation, investing in those neighbourhood assets as well, being positive about the kind of people that we're giving opportunities to. So taking risks on people, helping them to drive the program. As Amber spoke about earlier on, we do something called a Discovery Day, and that's about bringing people together, understanding what's working well in an area, not ignoring the issues, but kind of understanding what we could all do as a community to work together to improve the situation. So once, and kind of what does that look like? Well, it kind of having regular, fun, meaningful activities as part of the program run by the community themselves really starts to help to build community participation and gives a greater sense of community. And we'll speak a little bit more about Northlands Park in a moment, but in terms of Discovery Days where they've gone well, we've come out of those programs with a kind of a whole program of activities led by the community themselves, and kind of those volunteers have then gone on to work either for us or within the local community, and really underpinning the work that we're doing. And of course, once the key is building trust, and once you've built trust with the community, then kind of then you're able to have that opportunity to help with wider needs. For example, having access to counselling, food parcels, addressing personal barriers. And I think that building trust and the fact that we've got a background in local authority and we understand how to navigate the system has really helped to kind of turbocharge the work that we're doing. So from the point of view that for the community, we're able to kind of help plug them into the system. And for the system, we're helped to kind of land their projects and their programs through our network, because it's not so much about the activity, it's about building trust with that community and understanding and knowing the families. So that's kind of how it works. You kind of like you're kind of systems knitting and also at the same time building capacity within the community through participation. And of course, people then want to give back. You know, they like the sense of belonging, they like the sense of feeling a part of something. And volunteering and participation becomes a kind of natural tool to be able to feel part of the wider community. And then that has led to lots of vocational opportunities, which obviously leads to more fulfilled lives. Next slide, please. So yeah, just kind of looking at those two. So as I said, we were probably naively working in asset-based community development for a long time, and then kind of understanding the principles has really underpinned the programme. So as we said, focusing on what the opportunities and possibilities are and how the community can drive that, building strength from within rather than from focusing on external problems and what we could do by landing programs in, building the program on the strength that's already there, seeing what's needed, what's there already, and secure what we need to kind of drive things forward. And also, you know, just really celebrating and making the program about the volunteers and community participation itself, celebrating those strengths and really putting people at the front of what you're trying to achieve. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk now to Kelly, because when we're talking about neighbourhood connectors, Kelly's one of those. So we're going to talk about Northlands Park. Probably best held if we go back to when we first arrived with the discovery. Kind of what the issues were that people were presenting, and perhaps talk a little bit as well about what your role was when we first met.
Okay, so I'm Kelly. My role when we first met was I worked as a learning mentor and one of the DSLs in a really underdeprived school, Briscoe, you know, and we had lots of problems in the areas. The community was fragmenting off. We weren't allowed to use Northlands Park very well. We were allowed to use it, but we couldn't use it because of all the trouble. I mean, it's got its name, Murder Park. We had lots of drugs, lots of gangs. So people were getting shut away because there was nowhere to go that didn't cost money. So, you know, we become shut in our own homes. We had, you know, people were struggling financially. They were isolated, and a lot of the issues were coming into the school. And we were meeting, I was meeting 15 families or more every morning because they're struggling. So that's what was going on for the area. I worked within Briscoe's for 22 years. I lived in the area. I was raising my own teenagers in the area. So I knew the families and I knew the struggles. And then ATF turn up and do a discovery day. That's how we met.
Yeah, and I guess from an outside point of view, when we kind of landed in Pitsea, we were walking around Northlands Park and we were seeing a beautiful park, an amazing asset, and completely not understanding what the issues were. So you know, immediately it struck us like, why can't people use the park? And that discovery day, Kel, I guess you were fairly cynical about who ATF were and why people from outside were kind of parachuting in, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we'd seen it before over and over again, people coming into my area, and that's how I felt, telling me what they can give me, what they can do for me without even knowing who I was. So there was all these people saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Actually, you haven't even asked if that's what I want. So a long time ATF, and I sat within the discovery day and thought, before it even started, here we go again. You know, you're going to stroll in, you're going to give me what you think I need, and then you're going to disappear again. And we're going to be still left with the same issues, and you haven't even talked to me. So the Discovery Day happened, and I was a bit like, hello, okay, this might be a bit different. Still very cynical, I'm going to say, because I sat back and just watched and observed what was going on. It took me a little while to even agree that you were going to do something different. But the Discovery, it was different. It was, what's good about your area? Well, nobody had ever asked me that before. Nobody had ever asked the community what's good. They just wanted to know all the rubbish that was going on. So that's where it was different, which and I started to listen. Wasn't convinced, but started to listen.
And I guess in terms of the offers that we had from the community, so we were initially funded through the local delivery pilot through Sport England. It was about community participation through physical activity, with a line of sight for physical activity. But the offers that came from the families that came to the Discovery Day in Briscoe's were around a cooking program, a gardening program, boxing. They're from a parent that wanted to do some boxing, some multi-sport offers, and maybe about having a youth club as well, I think, if I'm right. So immediately we found some really strong assets. And obviously, in terms of Kelly's profile for us as an organisation, the fact that Kelly had access to those families that were most at risk of exclusion. So obviously supporting Kelly to be part of what we were doing was an absolute quick win, because then we were right at the heart of the community with the people that probably would appreciate the help the most. And I think from that moment, that day, we kind of, one of the stated aims was we were going to try and reclaim the park and make it feel safe through having structured activities there. So do you maybe want to talk a little bit more about how things developed?
Yeah, so obviously, like we've spoke about, I mean, my children were banned. I never allowed my children to go to the park on their own because of all the trouble. So Stu and ATF, they're going to do these events in the park, and let's see what happens. You know, when you're still a little bit dubious, but because we had good connections, and I could see by the fact that the numbers of the people being at the school fence or school gate waiting for me to talk to them had started to whittle down anyway, because after the Discovery Day, what ATF was offering, they were giving, you know, so they'd already started to build trust in the community. We're going to an event at Northlands Park, and I just can't even say, like, it was amazing. All these people coming together in the park with all these activities, everything was free. And here we go, we're taking the park back. You know, you can't have it anymore because it's a beautiful space. We're taking it back. So, okay, one-off, I did a little bit like it was a one-off, but it continued and the numbers kept getting bigger. Everything we run at the park brought all these families together, and all of a sudden, these broken, fragmented communities were now one big family in the park that we couldn't use before. So it was just about bringing everyone together, and then people that were using what we were giving were asking how they can pay it forward. So it forward is giving it back. You know, thank you for what you've done. I'm going to do this, and it just grew and grew from there to the point where, well, we didn't have as many drug deals. We didn't have as much gangs hanging around the park because the community took it back with the support of ITF. That was what I mean. I'm not saying that there's never any trouble, because that's the areas in which we work in. But we took the park back and removed quite a lot of what was going on. My grandchildren, I let my grandchildren play there. I'd stopped my children, now my grandchildren can play there. So it just speaks for itself.
I think one of the other things was where we managed to change the perception of the area. It encouraged the local authority to invest again in new equipment for the park. So that was kind of like a real uptick of what, you know, the park was previously. And also we were able to utilize the local cafe in terms of food provision, and became part of what we were doing. So we were bringing local businesses with us as well. And I think, you know, 5 years on, when we look at that original Discovery Day in Pitsea, I would say like 50% of our workforce came from volunteering and community participation, and they probably wouldn't have applied for the roles that, you know, if we just put them out in a more traditional way. Perhaps we could talk a bit more about your role now, because obviously with permission from the school, eventually Kelly came to work with us full time. So do you want to talk a bit about what you do now?
Okay, so obviously I decided to jump ship from the school, and it was with permission, because what they were offering was me being able to do what I do, which is support communities and families, but on a bigger scale. So that started off with me, you know, running like what we call support hubs and inviting families in and doing what I was doing, but on a bigger scale and really getting community. That led from there to a phone call saying, Kelly, can you go in a doctor's surgery and talk to patients in the waiting room, which we did. It was then people started to see that our way of social prescribing, which we didn't know what we was doing, which was referring out, supporting, listening, doing all the bits that they wanted to do. Well, that's called social prescribing. We didn't know, but they were really, the health were really interested in the way that we do it, because we're very much hands-on and in the community rather than in a room and on the phone. That's led to working out of a doctor's surgery 3 days a week, myself and a colleague. Between us, we see 17 patients each a day, where we do the usual signposting and referrals, but we do a lot of one-to-one work, like walk and talk. We do one-to-one boxing, we do dance, armchair exercise. If you want it and we're capable of doing it, this is what we're doing. We do lots of home visits with people that are isolated. We're now part of, with the NHS, running a wellness cafe, which is about bringing all these different people together and stopping loneliness, getting them health support as well as the social aspect of things. Running lots of different hubs, and now again into another area. We've just gone into Thurrock. I now live in Thurrock. It's where I grew up, and it is a very, very deprived area. We're giving something back there, so which is really lovely for me because it's back to my roots. But this is what I'm doing. So 6 days a week, probably, I'm interacting with communities and working with health and moving and finding local people that want to volunteer. We run lots and lots of volunteers in all of those things that I've just talked about. And some of them have gone into jobs, like the lovely Louise, who's working.
Yeah, we think we've got a
couple of
slide.
days with us.
Could you put the next slide on, please? Oh yeah, so that's just kind of showing that hopefully we help to reclaim the park. We've also supported a number of young people, and I spoke about the cafe as well. I have to say there is a video that we'll share with you afterwards so you can have a look, just at kind of some of the people that were involved in that project, which continues to this day. And the good thing about it is that the people that started off in Pitsea have now kind of taken the practice of change across Basildon. So we're working in Langdon, in Vange, and still in Pitsea. So the model has grown and expanded, and the principles remain the same and replicate the work that happened originally from here. So that's been really encouraging. And as Kelly says, we're now working across South Essex, utilising this model. Go to the next slide, please. Do you want to talk a bit about Louise, just as an example?
This is the lovely Louise that I was talking about. So Louise, she doesn't mind me saying, we've had this conversation lots. Single mum of 4 children, suffered severely with anxiety. COVID made that worse. She was completely shut off and didn't want to mix with anyone. The activities are going on in Northlands Park. She turns up one day because she's just at breaking point. She didn't know what to do anymore. The children got to play and she got to sit. And then she started to come along every time there was an event, every time ATF put something on, give her children something to do, started to build on her confidence. She just picked up some arts and crafts one day without you know, any encouragement, and started to do arts and crafts with the children on the field, and then started to volunteer, turning up at every session, volunteering to help. She now is, well, she's my number 2. She works with me in the doctor's surgery, because she had talents that she was hiding. She'd worked in care homes before. Her arts and crafts skills are brilliant. I mean, she does a balloon arch in seconds. It's so good. So now she works in the surgery with me. She, like, when I'm not there, she runs the hubs. She's just such an asset. And she's moving into Tilbury, another Thurrock-born girl that, you know, she knows her community, and she's just developed. She manages stuff herself, and this comes from a woman that was at breaking point. So it works, and now she's coming back. I mean, she's a real asset. She's an absolute privilege to work with.
And again, it's kind of like we started off with community participation and volunteering for Louise around her interest, which was arts and crafts, right? And it's grown from there. So yeah, another great example. Have the next slide, please. So now I want to just talk about Great Wakering, because obviously we started off in Southend, then we went to Pitsea, Langdon, Vange, but at the same time, like, how does the community participation model work in different areas? And obviously Great Wakering is very different in terms of the issues, but in some ways, you know, antisocial behaviour, social isolation, rural isolation a little bit, you know, it's a place where there's one bus in and one bus out. So I wanted just to talk about Vicky, and to Vicky, just about, you know, in terms of the neighbourhood connector that Vicky was. And obviously, Vic, perhaps you want to just explain before you started working with ATF, what your passions and interests were and how we came to meet.
Hiya. So, I mean, I never had any thought that I'd be getting involved in any of this. I was a mum who had just moved to Great Wakering, and I had 2 small children at the time, and I didn't really know anyone. And so when I got there, it was about trying to find things for my children to do, myself to do, meet new people. And unfortunately in Wakering there wasn't much, and it was really sad because there's so many different assets in Great Wakering, but they just weren't being used to their potential. So a lot of parents and families like myself were ending up, if they were able, driving outside of Wakering to different places in Southend. I remember I was driving all the way to Westcliff just to go to a mum and baby session. So it all started that we wanted to find things to do that we could do within Great Wakering, because it is a local village, it's a large village, but there are so many different assets that people could walk to and use, and that's where it all started.
From our point of view, from an ATF point of view, Vicky was engaging with a network of families, and that was kind of, you know, how do we speak to parents? And Vicky's probably not really fully, she's underselling the amazing work that she was doing in terms of Leapsprogs, which is a program for, well, Vic, you can explain what Leapsprogs does, yeah?
Yeah, so when I decided at that point that I was sick of travelling into Southend at the time, and I wanted to build some relationships within Wakering, I started a family engagement session called Leapsprogs, and it was about offering families a session which was low cost. It enabled, like families were going to all different sessions and paying out £6 to £8 per session for dancing, for speech work for their children, for like all sorts of different things. And I wanted to be able to offer all of that in one in a low cost way. So Leapfrogs was about learning shapes, colours, numbers whilst being active. So it was all about fun games where parents had to work with their children to learn the colours, to do the games, and it grew. We did it in like the local family centre, because again that just wasn't being used within Wakering. they were able to work with me because they weren't seeing the people. So we worked together to use that as a place to bring people together, and it grew substantially from there. So
from an ATF point of view, we're trying to engage with families. So like I say, we're working in areas around specific need, and we're trying to reduce social isolation. So the partnership with Vicky which just made perfect sense because it enables us to have access with families. So there's your asset, there's your focusing on what's strong, because you've got a community member. Again, Vicky was just kind of Vicky, 100 people in Wakering, and so it kind of sitted really well, and it made perfect sense. And we were then able to land local authority programs and priorities because of the engagement and the trust that was there. But that, Leapfrogs just grew, didn't it? And obviously it's not just Leapfrogs, is it? I mean, talk about what Great Wakering looks like today in terms of the connectedness of the community.
We were really lucky. Like I said before, within Wakering, there's so many different assets that weren't being used to their potential. And because it is a large village, they're able to walk to them. They're so easily reachable, but they just weren't being used. So when we started, we had this clear goal of bringing loads of people together of all different ages. And we started fairly slowly asking people what they wanted to see, and that was key to why Great Wakering is a success today. A lot of the people were saying to me, we want to, from that family engagement session that I was running, we want to be seeing netball, for example. It kept coming up time and time again, so we started putting on netball. From those sessions, the netball sessions, we were seeing parents, we were seeing young mums, we were seeing grandmas at those, we were seeing young children coming to the teenage session. And then they were able to then speak to us and say, well, actually, we want to be seeing seated exercise for ourselves. We want to be able to see a bigger family engagement session. We want to be involved in fitness. And it was really clear that we were able to listen to what they were saying to us and able to slowly respond to what they wanted to see. The seated exercise has become like a community within a community itself. They were so vocal about what they wanted, and we were able to respond to them and put that on. It also really helped within Wakering that on Facebook, they've got their own community page already, and people were using that all the time. So we were able to use that because that was strong already, but use that to show what we were doing, show that there was these different sessions that we were starting to put on. We then started using WhatsApp groups. We started connecting people to each other. People would turn up at netball, and those same people were then turning up to the family engagement session. Those people were then speaking about their parents who were going to the seated exercise. Those parents were then going to park play, park run, and they started seeing each other all at different sessions that we were offering, and they started forming friendships. And like I say, it's a large village, so it was people were able to keep going to the same sessions and started putting familiar faces to each other. Once we did all of those individual sessions, we started thinking about bringing all of those sessions together. So we started hosting events in Wakering. We had an Easter egg hunt, which was what the community came to us and said they wanted to see things like this. We used the local recreation ground, and over 600 people, which was like 10% of the population, came along to that one event. The parish council then started coming to us, and they've said, we want to put on picnics and big lunches, and combined we've seen over 300 people come into those as well. So after we started all of those things, we then started collaborating with local partners. and reaching audiences that we hadn't had before. So, for example, we were seeing a lot of young children. We were seeing seated exercise for the older people, the mums, and we were seeing there, but we were missing out on the school-age children, for example. So we started collaborating with the school and we started offering sessions there. The preschool, we were hosting events there. Again, the parish council, like I say, with the families. And it was those mutual partnerships that's helped us to grow massively within Great Wakering. As it grew, we started to encourage members to start taking initiative. For example, the netball, which was one of our early day sessions, 2 volunteers stepped up there. They now run that session every week and it's really successful. We've got a cake lady who runs all of the cake making at the family engagement session. We've got someone at the seated exercise who she'll be doing the teas and coffees for them when they're finished. We've got a local, we had a mum, Ella, who literally, she came along to one of our sessions, single mum of 2, struggling, didn't get out much, struggled within herself. She came along and we just saw something in her, and now she's like an integral part of the Great Wakering family engagement session. All the parents know her, all the children know her, and it was things like that. And I think it's the fact that we were there every week consistently. We were listening to what they wanted rather than just coming in and putting on the sessions that we thought would work. Like netball, I don't think we would have ever put on netball had it have been that they weren't constantly asking for it. And our levels of service, like I think word of mouth within Wakering helped so much, because we were putting on these really fantastic sessions and we were putting our heart and soul into it, and then people were talking, people were telling friends, people were discussing how they know that person from that session and that session, and yeah, it's just grown like organically, really. So it's been a joy to work there.
You've done amazing work, and you should be really proud of it, because it's like, you know, when we take people around, they just can't believe all the different sessions that are going on at the same time under one organisation. I think obviously I'm really aware of time, so I'll sum up that I think, you know, one of the strengths of the work that we've done is so when we were told that we had the LDP funding, it was kind of like, how can we align ourselves to systems partners to try and have sustainability? So we've kind of really worked hard. So Kelly's example of working in the doctor's surgery, so aligning ourselves to health, to work with patients that were frequent flyers to the surgery. The earlier example of working with the school to work with families are at risk and young people who are at risk of exclusion from education. And Vicky, I know we didn't really touch on it, but Vicky's also worked really hard alongside Youth Offending Service to work with young people who might have already been involved in the criminal justice system as part of the programme. So it's all around community participation, trying to engage volunteers back into the work that we're doing, but at the same time, systems knitting. So we're aligning ourselves with areas and systems partners to try and solve systems issues. And you can kind of be as ambitious as you want with this, because it's really worth pointing out that we were just a football club that wanted to use community participation to kind of make our sessions busy. And on that level, you know, with probably £500 funding and aspirations to build a team, it was very rewarding, because we saw that the young people were able to drive the programme. So it doesn't just have to be a massive, great big thing that you're going to change an area and change a system. It can just be, you know, why should you use community participation? Because it feels good. It makes your organisation more resilient. It makes the individual more resilient, and it kind of feels like the right thing to do. But not only that, as the story and the growth of ATF shows, it's really good for business, and it can really drive, you know, working in the third sector. It just has driven our programme and helped us to access so much more funding than we probably would have done without this way of working. So I'm going to wrap up there. So I know that I've missed a few slides, but we have touched on them. So over to you, Jay. Thank you.
Perfect. No, thank you very much. So my name's Jay. I am the Partnerships and Community Projects Manager for ATF. So we heard so many kind of positive stories there, right, in terms of like Kel's story and her lived experiences in the school, and Vicky, and like I just want to kind of touch on that. I'm not going to be sharing those amazing stories, but kind of we're looking to you guys for those kind of inspirations around how you're going to take today's magic and work in your communities. So what would you like your Essex community to look like for you guys? So reflect on what you've heard about success using the asset-based model. And this is your opportunity to think big and envision possibilities. And as Stu said, it doesn't have to necessarily be big as in, you know, taking over a whole area, but that could be something small. So a local community group that's requested this, how can we help you facilitate that to make that happen? So everyone's vision is unique, so there's no right or wrong answer, and that's the whole kind of positive around kind of your Essex community. We all help support those local kind of delivery partners. So on that note, what I'd like you to do now is just to think about how you've taken today's success stories, and as you've been going along, you've probably been thinking about how you can incorporate that into your community. So what are your kind of things that you're going to take away from today to think about how you're going to help support your community? So you can either put your hand up, or you can put those into the group. That's also fine. So I'll wait for that awkward 30 seconds of silence where no one puts a hand up. Oh, we've got one already. There we are. So Russell.
Hi Jay, hope you can hear me. Really good presentation, guys. Wasn't sure what it was going to be about, so I'm glad I signed up for it. Yeah, love the stories, love the taking over and getting back in the community, and yeah, it's really quite inspirational on those things. I run a couple of clubs actually. I run a swimming club called Swimmability, which is in Runnymede, and one of the struggles that we've got is about how you actually get people to get involved. So I've been doing it for about 10 years now, the chairman of it, and seen lots of committees and people coming together and those type of things around a common interest. Everyone loves what we do in terms of it, but actually trying to get participation is the hardest thing. And I just wonder what the ingredient we're missing on that. And I'm the CEO today. I'm not on the capacity as a swimming club chair. You know, we've got about 30 swimmers that swim there on a regular basis, all with disabilities and certain special needs. And it's run as part of a competitive club, so it combines the two. So we've got the asset, we've got some people, we've got enough people, but I just can't find that little ding that I heard. So many people seem to have found that little nugget that kind of locks it all in, and it starts to gather momentum on its own without needing you. And then the other thing I run is I'm the chief exec of a SEND charity called Families in Focus. We help parents across the whole of Essex with SEND, and we run an activity club on a Saturday. And again, that's really good. Volunteers, lots of volunteers involved, often from community, not local, but identified by need, I suppose. And I'm interested again about how it needs to have its own. I feel momentum is coming through from what you guys are talking about, and I struggle sometimes because we can't. You know, I wish they were part of the community. I suppose I wish there was a Chelmsford community and there was a swimming club in every local pool. Because I love swimming, by the way. It's my big sport, and it does so many really good things. But I wish there was something where they could do it locally. But if we can't, is there any ideas in the room or any things that we could do that could really build people's confidence to get involved, to see the magic in people's eyes about what it means to do community and how to be part of it? And 6 days a week or 7 days, it takes over your life, doesn't it? It's what you love doing. But you just can't seem to find it in the communities that I'm kind of working in at the moment in any volume. So I just wonder if that's
So, yeah, I think you've just kind of addressed all of your assets right away there, haven't you? And you've really built that kind of community, as you've just mentioned. Now, something that we do kind of offer as Your Essex Community is sharing days. So something similar to today's webinar, for example. You know, so that's something that we could perhaps support you in being able to kind of share in your practice, whether that's in a webinar or whether that's in person, about kind of how people can get involved. Maybe I'm not promising 5-6 days a week, but that's obviously down to you kind of to be able to address that. And but yeah, we can most certainly kind of catch up after this to discuss how we can help support shape that sharing day and slash discovery day, however you feel that could help support you. Feel free to jump in, anyone else that wants to add to that. But Amber?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think with probably most of our volunteers are involved, they never set out to be volunteers. I think this is the key with it all, is it's just finding that confidence within people and showing that they do have the ability to volunteer and to make change in their community, even if it wasn't their goal to start with. I think lots of the time, people that turn up to our sessions, they start maybe making cups of tea, and then before you know it, they're setting cones out, and then the next week later, then they're running to a sports game, and they haven't even realised the progression that they're making. They don't set out with this big goal to volunteer. I think it's just that encouragement and just trying to empower people to actually say, oh no, but anyone can volunteer. We can help train you up. We can give you those skills. And it doesn't have to be some big daunting commitment. The more people that are involved in something, the less it takes away on that individual, and people can be flexible and give up as much or as little time as they want. So I think it's just framing it in that way, and it's just everybody that you come in contact with. I think sometimes maybe if you put a post up online searching for volunteers, you don't get too much response from it. It's all from those organic, natural conversations with people that you see that attend the swimming club. Do they have neighbours or grandparents or aunties and uncles that could possibly be involved? I think it has to come from face to face to get like the most traction from it all. But yeah, I think most of our volunteers never set out to volunteer. It's just something that they've naturally fallen into with the encouragement from people like yourself. That's what I'd say.
Perfect.
Thanks, Amber.
Sorry, so Des.
Yeah, I thought that was a great question, Russell, because we're a food bank, and I think similar to maybe some of the households you're working with SEN, these households are naturally busy. So when they turn up to sessions or events, what we've found is that they have so much else going on in their life that it doesn't even occur to them to consider themselves as potential for a volunteer. So what we've done is sort of created almost like safe entry points, just like what I think was it Amber was saying there, was almost like really light touch in session happening, you know, whether it's making teas or whatever on that day, and just saying to them, if you're along another time, could I maybe ask you to help with the teas then, and just build it from there. Because I think sometimes what's going on for those households is they're so busy that they don't want to promise help and then let people down. So it's almost like creating lots of different volunteering opportunities, which does take a lot of work to create and manage that. But it's about creating that staged entry where they can build the confidence and to actually even start considering themselves as a volunteer.
Yeah,
so little micro tasks, I would say, even if it's just taking a set of leaflets home and putting them through the doors in their street, that to us is a volunteer role, and it gets as much thanks as somebody who gives us 3 days a week.
Yeah, perfect. And I think once you've kind of developed those volunteers as well, that, you know, people are attracted to that and people want to be a part of that movement. So yeah, it starts quite small, as we was mentioning earlier on, but that can kind of snowball into, as you've mentioned, there's a kind of logistical nightmare in terms of trying to timetable. So I think I'm mindful of the time. We've only got a couple of minutes before the end, and there's a couple of tasks that we would like you to be able to do before going today. Sorry, Karina, would you be able to skip for me? So so what I'd like you to do now is if you could scan that QR code. So we want to hear more about how we can help encourage, motivate and enable and inspire communities to get involved. Realise the community power within communities fostering resilience. So we want to be able to help you guys in being able to facilitate and support you in the movement that you want to take on from our conversations today. So if you can scan that QR code, it's just a short kind of form to fill out. And then there's something else after this as well that we'd like you to be able to do. So if you are already part of the community participation, what we would like you to now do is think about a takeaway from today. So takeaway action that you'll be able to take away, that you are going to be able to do and implement into your organisation, within your community, however that looks for you, and then to put that into the chat for me, just so then we can take that away as a bit of a feedback and how we can help support that going further with the comms afterwards with Karen. That's going to be leading on that. And then lastly, any questions at all? Further questions?
Just on the questions as well, if anyone's got any questions afterwards that might pop in their head later, then feel free to drop us an email and we can come back to you on that as well. Nobody's got any questions?
Yeah, I was busy signing up, hopefully.
Great. Well, thank you all for attending today. We're really pleased that you came along, and we, of course, this has been recorded, so we'll share this. And if you have any colleagues that you want to share the information with, or any follow-up questions at all, we'd be more than happy to continue the conversation and keep you up to date about future events. It was great to see you all.
Thanks, guys. Pretty good.
Thank you, Russell.
Thanks, everybody.